Hello, hello. This is my very first YouTube video that I've ever done. I'm doing it in response to Dark Side Vinyl's contest about family and what albums relate and remind you of family. Um, for all of you, your Big Bang Theory fans, welcome to Fun with Vinyl. I promised my wife I would do that, so I had to fit it in there in the beginning. Um, The first question that Dark Side Vinyl asked was, "What album reminds you of family?" I'm going to start off with my personal favorite, uh, John Prine. This is Storm Windows. As you can see, it's been signed by John Prine. I got that for my birthday from my wife a few weeks ago. Um, John Prine has always been a favorite of mine. The reason why it reminds me of family is my dad was a big John Prine fan. He sang me his songs before I ever knew who they were. I remember hearing Christmas in Prison. Dad would play guitar at night, and Sandstone, and Billy the Bum. So he's always been a part of my musical quilt, if you will. So he reminds me of my dad. And my mom is a Prine fan. They took me to see him in 1995. It's one of the first concerts that I can remember. And then my wife took me a few years ago before Prine passed. Um, the fact that he was so weaved into, I guess, my childhood and adult fabric is what reminds me of family. Reminds me of my dad, my mom, my wife, my kids. I sing those songs to my kids most nights. I know my wife is rather tired of hearing Clocks and Spoons because I felt like that I got that one down pretty well, so I played it quite a bit. The second record that reminds me of family is Holiday Sing Along with Mitch Miller and the Gang. That reminds me of family because my wife, she always had that on when she was a kid when they'd open presents from Santa. So she brought that over into my life, and so now that's been a tradition throughout the years, and it will continue to be a tradition. Christmas is a big part of my family, so I felt like the Christmas albums were what reminded me probably the most of my family is that holiday season. So I wanted to include that in there because that is a big part of what reminds me of family when my kids come in and they see what Santa brought and they're so excited. And I get to see my wife get excited too because it reminds her of her childhood. The third album is both what reminds me of family, but it also goes into the second question, which is an album that a family member gave to you. I chose Bruce Springsteen Live, 75 to 85. While my dad was a giant Prine fan, my mom was equally a Bruce Springsteen fan. So every time I hear Bruce Springsteen or talk about Bruce Springsteen, it immediately reminds me of my mom. And the way the story goes is I was a little kid, and I would start dancing like crazy to Hungry Heart. And then I got an appreciation of Springsteen for the other albums, Darkness on the Edge of Town and Born to Run, which for me are two of the best albums ever. And I don't know if there will be albums like that again, music like that, like the Born to Run, Darkness on the Edge of Town, even John Prine's very first album. All of the songs that Prine is mostly known for all came off that first album, which is surprising because they are timeless. So my mom gave me that record, including her entire record collection, which is all the Springsteens. So that reminds me of family, and it's something someone gave me. The one that I specifically chose for a family member given record is this Dr. Demento from 1985. It is special to me because my wife went out and she searched for something that was unique and related to John Prine for me since I was a big fan. So this album actually is one of the radio shows where he plays "Please Don't Bury Me" from June 24th, 1985. So I didn't even know this existed until she gave it to me, and it is one of my prized albums now. going into the third question, which is to spell out family. I've thought with albums, I've thought about this and thought about this, and there's love, and there's you can do family, you can do all these things, and what I settled on was hope. This year has been tough on everyone, whether it be restrictions or loss of a job or loss of loved ones. It has been a hard year, and so family to me is many things, but it's also hope. Um, I have hope when I talk to my parents. I have hope when I talk to my wife. I have hope every single time that I look at my son and daughter. I guess it reminds me of the Jason Isbell song "White Man's World" at the end when he's talking about giving up on faith, and he talks about that what keeps his faith is the fire in that little girl's eyes, which is talking about his daughter. So that's the hope that I was talking about. Um, and like I said, for me, Christmas music is a lot of family and hope. There's something in that Christmas season where everyone is a little bit nicer and a little bit happier and has a little bit more hope for the incoming year. So I spelled out hope. First album is Happy Holidays. I do not know what year. Sorry, 1972 is this one. And for the O, I might have cheated here just a little bit because it's not actually the first words on O, but it's the original Gene Autry, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I mean, what would Christmas be without Gene Autry and Rudolph? Because how in the world would Santa get through the fog if it wasn't for this song and that trusty reindeer with that red nose? And for the P, no big surprise, I'm going to choose John Prine Souvenirs. The John Prine Souvenirs is actually a group of recordings and songs that he had done before, but he redid them, and it was to try to get his name and sales bigger overseas. So he went back and re-recorded these old staples, from the 70s, and it gave it a whole new feel. And the renditions on that album, to me, are better than the original recording sometimes. So for any person that's getting into John Prine and kind of wants a starting point, then I feel like Souvenirs is really the place to start because it gives you that good overview of the main songs and some songs you might not even heard of. It kind of gives you that overall feel of what he was about. And lastly, for the E, I chose Emmylou Harris. I know this is blasphemy for the really hardcore Emmylou Harris fans like my aunt, but I'm more into Emmylou Harris in terms of her background vocals. To me, she is probably the greatest background singer to support an artist ever. So I chose Emmylou Harris as the E, and I'm really grateful that Dark Side Vinyl chose this topic of family because it really is a wonderful topic, but it is important right now with all the things going on and to bring it in a vinyl setting. So those are my albums. This is my first video ever. So as I would say to my classes, I'm a teacher. When it comes to evaluation time, in the words of P.T. Barnum, if you liked it, tell everyone. If you didn't like it, then just keep your mouth shut. Don't tell anyone. No one. But if you liked it, tell someone. So thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks.